and welcome to Dr. Logic awkwardly does logic in her office. Thank you so much for coming today. This video is the first in a series of videos that I'm going to be doing over the course of the year that attempts to answer the question, what is logic? Now, this is the sort of question where you'll get as many answers as you get people that you ask, and in fact possibly even more than that, because some people have multiple different answers that they would give. If we were doing this in a face-to-face, interactive, dynamic sort of setting, this is the point at which I would pause and ask you guys to tell me what is logic. Or if you don't have a definition of logic that you could give, tell me what does it concern? What are some of the relevant concepts or topics or issues that are involved with logic, the practice of it, the study of it? Now, ordinarily, this would then result in good 30 to 60 seconds of dumbfounded silence before you all realize that I actually intended you to answer the question rather than just this being the sort of teacher rhetorical question where I say something and then I go on to answer it myself. So, take a moment, think to yourself, pause this video if you need to, and write down what you would say if I were actually asking this to you right now. And then we will just suppose that I've got my giant whiteboard behind me, my multicolored markers, and I would solicit answers from all of you and put them up on the board. What are the sorts of things that I tend to generally get when I ask this question? People say things about arguments. People say things about reasoning. People say things about validity. In fact, they might even say the magical terms deductive validity and feel all clever and cool because they know one of the technical terms of logic. But you might also get answers concerning argumentation, or truth, or soundness, or consequence. Consequence is another good word. This is one that will be coming up in a number of the videos that we talk about. We would eventually have this great big kind of word cloud on the board of all of these different ideas, and the answer is yes. All of these feed into what logic is and what it is that logicians do. Because both of these are aspects that I want to focus on over the course of these videos. Not only what it is that is the subject matter, but how does one actually go about using it? What does it mean to be a logician? How do you use logic? What are the practices of being a logician like? So I'm not actually going to give you in this video an answer to the question, what is logic? That's going to take us the entire series to come to an answer to, and even by the end of it, I'm not going to have the knockdown, drag out answer. But we do need a place to start. So looking at all of the topics and issues and strategies and techniques that go into the study of logic in the 21st century, I'm actually going to go back to a definition of logic, my favorite definition, from the 13th century. Now you might sit here and say, the 13th century, what did they know about logic in the 13th century? The answer actually is quite a bit. The 13th and 14th centuries were after Aristotle and prior to the 20th and 21st centuries, one of the golden eras in the development of logic. A lot of the concepts and vocabulary and techniques that we use in contemporary logic today date back from this medieval period. More about that in other videos. I could probably do an entire series on that, though not at this point. Going back to, as I said, my favorite definition of logic as a starting point to give you an idea of what this subject is about, it's due to a guy called Roger Bacon who studied and taught at the universities of Oxford and Paris in the middle of the 13th century, and around 1250 he wrote an Introduction to Logic undergraduate textbook for the students that he was teaching. It's called The Art and Science of Logic, and in it he defines logic as, he says, logic as a science is the habit of distinguishing what is true from what is false by means of rules or maxims or dignities, by which we can comprehend the truth of a locution through our own efforts or with the help of others. And logic is so called from logos, which means discourse, and lexis, which means reason or understanding, as it were, either science of reasoning joined to discourse, or of discourse joined to reasoning. So there are four aspects of this definition of logic that I want to highlight because I think that they're very important for kind of setting the scene for what it is that we're going to be doing and what we're going to be studying in the course of these videos. The first is that it is aimed at distinguishing truth from falsehood. And this is probably the most important one. If you are not interested in the pursuit of truth, then logic is not the field for you. It is the goal of seeing what has to be the case given what else is the case. Given that we know certain things are true, what else has to be true? Or we might also ask, what else is possibly true? What might be true? What is probably true? We can also even ask questions like, given that I have evidence for these things, what other things am I allowed to assert? So not quite as strong as having truth, but given that there are strong connections between norms of truth and norms of assertion, it's clear to see that these are connected. So first point, aimed at distinguishing truth from falsehood. Second point, it is rule governed. We are not messing around in the dark. We have practices and procedures, definitions, rules that we can follow that will tell us, given the way the world is, if it's like this, then these other things also have to be the case. Now, most contemporary logicians would probably draw the line underneath these two things. Logic is about the pursuit of truth, and it's rule governed. That's it. But the reason that I like Roger Bacon's definition is because of the two further factors that he highlights. Number 3, it can be a joint venture. He says that we can comprehend the truth of a locution through our own efforts or with the help of others. And this is a point that I'm going to stress continually. Logic works best as a study and as a practice when it is a joint venture. So it's not just the logician sitting in her office proving her theorems and enjoying her life with luxury and silence and simplicity. It is a practice via which people work together to try to build up an agreed set upon system of truths and system of rules. So this isn't just you sitting in your room doing your logic homework. This is me talking to you. This is you asking me questions. This is me trying out answers. This is you practicing things, all with this sort of feedback loop going on. This is a collective effort. We are in it together. Fourth, it involves discourse. This has to be the case if we're doing something cooperative, because there has to be this back and forth where I say something and you say something and you ask a question and I give an answer and you give an objection and I reply to that objection and all of this. This all functions in a discursive type of context. But more broadly than that, the important thing to recognize is that logic works best when it has an application. When we have a context in which we can put it. And it's from these contextual issues that we end up getting more than one answer to what is logic, or what counts as logic, or what is good logic, or any one of these family of questions, because it's going to depend on the context. Now, this probably opens up more questions than it actually answers, but it gives us a framework in which we can work. We are interested in the pursuit of truth. We want to do it in a rule-governed fashion. We want to do it in a cooperative and collective fashion, and we want to do it in a discursive context that specifically governs and guides sorts of norms that we are going to be doing. So this provides the context for what we are going to be doing in this series of videos. I look forward to doing it with you. Let's go out, do some logic. I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.